οι Έλληνες είχαν αναπτύξει πολύ σημαντική τεχνολογία.
Pathfinder.gr, ο οδηγός σας στο ίντερνετ.
Our battle against all kinds of diseases, a battle that goes on and which unfortunately has not always been victorious, could not be realized without the immense investment in research on behalf of pharmaceutical companies. Research which in turn would not be feasible in the absence of clinical trials. In filling this large gap existing in our country and its neighboring countries, in this sector, the spin-off company of the University of Athens was recently born. This effort began 2 years ago, when it came to realize that although more than 2,000 clinical trials are conducted in Greece yearly, there were no specialized laboratories where reliable analysis could be conducted. We therefore took the initiative to form a company, a central laboratory, in collaboration with the University of Athens and the Ministry of Development, which would fill this prevailing gap. Research Diagnostics was thus created. At Research Diagnostics, we're able to conduct thousands of all kinds of examinations on a daily basis. We're capable of conducting over 17,000 tests, which may be specialized, simple, complex, DNA, or biochemical. This is not a common laboratory in the way laboratories have been perceived so far in Greece. We're not a diagnostic center such as the ones that we may come across the whole of the country. We constitute a specialized lab for those people taking part in clinical trials. There are no names kept in identifying the samples that enter this lab. Thus, patients' privacy is fully safeguarded. We only use barcodes, which serve for distinguishing between these samples. In dealing with this immense volume of samples, we use both our robotic, fully automated equipment as well as the Internet, so that researchers who have assigned the conduct of trials to us have real-time access to their patients' results.
Αναθέσει σε εμάς τη μελέτη να έχει τη δυνατότητα σε πραγματικό χρόνο, real time, να βρέπει πραγματικά τα αποτελέσματα των εξετάσεων των ασθενών του.
Για να διαπιστευτεί ένα εργαστήριο μετρήσεων ή κλινικών...
ISO 17025 or 15189 certification will be granted to a laboratory which conducts measurements in clinical trials provided that it follows a series of specific steps. It must have recorded procedures with regard to anything being conducted in it and to follow them thoroughly. It must take part in external quality control systems, monitor and apply internal audit programs. It must have procedures for dealing with any possible malfunction during measurements, and finally, it must supervise its own methods and determine the uncertainties that may be associated with each one of these methods.
Όλα αυτά βεβαίως δεν θα ήταν δυνατόν να γίνουν.
It is clear that none of the above mentioned would have been feasible unless it were for the assistance offered by the University of Athens, which gave us the know-how and the knowledge. We transferred this knowledge outside the university premises to the free market. We commercialized it. A second contributor was the Secretariat for Research and Development of the Ministry of Development, which invested 50% of the capital for the founding of the company. The other 50% was funded by private investors who believed in this concept, in the idea of bringing science to the market and turning Greece into a center of attraction for the conduct of clinical trials on new drugs and new medicinal products. The importance of clinical trials is immense for Greece, both at a country level and at a scientific one. A great number of clinical trials are conducted in Greece, despite the difficulties faced, which are primarily due to bureaucracy. Companies, however, have managed to conduct European and international scale clinical trials that are exclusively funded from overseas. This fact is considered utterly important since they bring about high-standard scientific know-how and employ high-qualified scientists, who sometimes have difficulties finding a job due to their being overqualified. They are therefore given the opportunity to find a way out of this dead end and find high standard scientific employment. The initiative taken by Professor Nikos Drakoulis to create research diagnostics finds us all at the Hellenic Association of Pharmaceutical Companies, and me personally as the president of both of the association and of Pharmacelv Lilly, very pleased and content, since it is a leading high-tech company which was formed with the assistance of the University of Athens and the Ministry of Development with funding from the European Union. This company was audited by us as well, and we were astonished by the high standard of its medical equipment. We believe this company will contribute to the development of clinical trials in our country, while it will also constitute a center of attraction for the conduct of clinical trials from other states in carrying out their controls and experiments on various medicinal products, all of which will be of high standard, as already mentioned. You will not come across a laboratory of this caliber within a 2,000-kilometer radius from Athens. Therefore, it becomes evident that this lab can also cater for the needs of both this country as well as its neighboring countries, which include the wider area of the Balkans, southeastern Europe in general, the eastern Mediterranean even. However, clinical trials are not as far as we are able to go. They're not the only thing we can do. Our infrastructure allows us to reveal new genes, to devise new methods and discover possible diseases. We're able to conduct the so-called newborn screening, for example, which is a form of screening with the capacity to detect over 30 diseases that may be present in newborns at the time of their birth, and thus guide their pediatrician through the proper treatments that they will need in order to prevent these diseases from developing. Furthermore, our molecular genetics laboratory allows us not only to discover new mutations, but also to conduct new routine tests, such as tests for hepatitis C or B, a disease that still constitutes a great problem in our country with regard to blood donating or blood transfusions for patients undergoing surgery.